It is always good to talk to somebody whose name ends in a vowel. He is the new head coach at Xavier, and he joins us live on the Rich Eisen Show. Richard Pitino, how's the new gig?
It's a lot. I'm excited about it, but there's a lot of work to do. I mean, we did the whole press conference, boosters, all that, which was great and it's fun, but we've got a lot of work to do with this roster. Or lack thereof. So it's been great, being able to see some of the spots in Cincinnati. I didn't realize how good of a city it is. I'd spent some time here, but very, very exciting. And to be back in the Big East is awesome.
2 players, that's it. You do have work to do. How was that first team meeting?
Well, as of now, there's 2 players. They could all walk in and leave, too. There's just nothing that binds these guys to anything right now. So, that first, normally what you do is you're trying to build a roster, but you're also like working out the current guys where we don't have anyone really to work out, it's all good. I mean, I could have stayed in New Mexico and dealt with the same thing. It's just the ever-changing landscape of this, and we'll have to figure it out. But we got plenty of time to, by probably June 1, build a roster.
Have you looked at that room yet and said, hey, David West isn't walking through that door? No. Tyrone Hill is not walking through that door.
You know what? I remember when he had that epic speech. I was in Boston, and he's not a big, on social media. I wouldn't say he's oblivious, but he is somewhat oblivious. And I remember he did that speech, and I was like, man, you don't realize the backlash you created with that, huh? And he was like, no, is it bad? I was like, yeah, that was bad. Don't do that again, please.
Oh, but it was such a ridiculously epic moment talking here to Richard Pitino on the Rich Eisen Show. And you obviously were referencing your dad, Rick Pitino, who you're now back in the Big East. You get to play twice a year. I think 1-3 against him, but no one's counting. I want to ask you from a different perspective. Was there anything about getting back into the idea of having to play him twice a year and being in the Big East, was that in any way a negative? Did it ever give you pause and go, you know what, I don't know that I do want to go through that?
Well, for one, the one time we beat him was the only time he played me in my home gym. So let's just remember that. So he came to
shot fired.
And and we beat him. But no, honestly, is it annoying? Yeah, I don't love doing it by any means, but it was not enough for me to pass on this opportunity. The only time I really deal with it, honestly, is with the media. Other than that, we played him at St. John's this year in the Garden, and that was more of an experience for my team, and I wanted to kind of beef up the schedule, but there's no real, I'm not going to catch up to his career. He's got over 800 wins, and he's in the Hall of Fame, so I probably got a long way to go there. I'm secure enough in myself to understand that, but it was definitely never I'm going to pass up on a Xavier type situation because I don't want to play him.
Have people pitched you guys the show idea, father, son, and a day in the life, a Hard Knocks NFL films kind of thing behind the scenes with the two of you back in the same conference?
No, I mean, he had his little docu-series that's gone on for 90 episodes. I keep texting him when is this thing over? But I was on that for that. But, I think all of us are trying to figure out ways to get more NIL. So, I would be more than open to doing it if it contributes to the collective. So, no, nobody's come to me yet, but we'll keep all options open.
I'm talking to Richard Pitino now, the new head coach at Xavier. I want to get back to the NIL thing because you mentioned it. You obviously have to be a roster builder now every year. It's a year-by-year proposition, and I would have to imagine it's exhausting. In the football world that I cover, you are seeing more and more college coaches saying, I would rather be NFL assistants and not have to deal with having to recruit my own players on my roster to stay nearly every week. You have a spring game, but then you got to re-recruit your roster to make sure they stay because they are getting offers. I mean, the transfer portal opened now in the NCAA tournament. We see it in college football where the transfer portal opens as the bowl games are being played. Is this sustainable for college basketball?
Well, I don't know if sustainable is the right word. Like, I think we'll keep moving on and it'll be fine. But the hardest part is honestly for the coaches and maybe the fans because they may get attached to somebody and they move on. I don't think as coaches we're like any better than the players. I broke my contract at New Mexico to leave. I don't think I'm a bad person. I don't think I'm not loyal. Was I chasing the money? Like, no, I thought it was a great opportunity for me. So my biggest thing to the players is just help us win this year. And if you help us win, it's going to increase your value. And if you have other opportunities, we'll support you. The only thing I ask them is, let us have a seat at the table of why we believe staying here may be more beneficial for you or elsewhere. But everybody's different, and they've earned the right to do that. I do think, there are some situations that are not, it's not sustainable to have everybody be a free agent. And in business, right, it's all about leverage. And they have all the leverage in the world right now. And a lot of them haven't earned it. I mean, they may not play a lot and they've got all the. So I don't blame them. They're taking advantage of a system that's really, really one-sided in it. But you can't sit and complain about it. You just got to figure it out. You got to talk to your people about maximizing the resources as best you can to be able to move on if somebody does want to move on.
Talking to Richard Pitino, what percentage of your job is X's and O's and what percentage of your job is fundraising and recruiting and trying to build a roster?
Well, one of the reasons I wanted to go to the Big East was I do believe when this House settlement thing passes April 7th, the Big East is going to be in a position of strength because we don't have to share our resources with football. They're going to be, a lot of these schools are going to be capped out with football. So everybody's trying to figure it out, but I do believe the Big East is going to be in a great spot. X's and O wise, I think when the season starts, it's certainly important, but you can't do it without a great roster. So it's definitely unique and challenging, but there's some fun in it too. You're like a GM, you're like a president, and then when the season starts, you're like a coach. So the problem is, or the hard part is, there's a small sample size for what we're doing now, and the money in the market is just shifting so much. So it's a little bit hard to analytically figure it all out, but we're certainly trying to do that.
You said, are you a coach or are you a GM? Can I make you an analyst and pick your brain on the Final Four as well?
Sure.
So I heard this theory, and it was somewhat snarky. For the people that say, well, this tournament hasn't been as good as past years, there's no big excitement. I would argue that the games last weekend and the weekend before that are actually really good. But they look at it and say, well, you have 4 number 1 seeds. It proves they got it right. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I think everybody's got to look themselves in the mirror and understand investment now more than ever is going to translate to winning. Very, very simple. And if you look at the programs that are in the Final Four right now, they're all in. The SEC is a perfect example. When I was at Florida, SEC was an absolute football league. Basketball was an afterthought. And you look at Auburn and Florida, they absolutely committed through the SEC and so on to basketball, and they're getting their return on their investment. Duke has always been invested. Kelvin Sampson's done a phenomenal job of building that program. The AD there is a good friend of mine. He was my AD who hired me in New Mexico. They're committing to, certainly they want football to be good, but basketball as well. So I think it's terrific. And I agree with you. They've got it right. And if all of us, whether it's Xavier or New Mexico, wherever, wants to be a part of that, you got to be all in and committed to that. So more power to them. It's an arms race, and we all got to join the fight.
Who do you like this weekend?
I'll say Duke. Duke is just big, talented. They can switch everything. That Houston. Houston is as I believe that my dad and Kelvin Sampson are the 2 best coaches in college basketball, especially in the defensive side of it. So it'll be a war. I think both matchups will be really, really good. They're kind of Florida is high octane offensively. Auburn, Bruce Pearl's done a terrific job. I think you're going to see on the other side of it with Duke and Houston an absolute rock fight.
Those games Saturday and Monday in San Antonio. Finally, Richard Pitino, we appreciate your time. Jamar Chase, and I don't know if you heard this at all. Obviously, Jamar Chase, Bengals wide receiver. When he signed his new contract a couple of weeks ago, he said he loves Cincinnati because there's not a lot to do. His words, not mine. And that's good for him. He could stay home. He could watch film. He could focus on football. He really likes it there, and he wanted to stay. But then he said, but we got to work on the food scene because, yeah, it's not that good. Your thoughts early, Richard Pitino, on Cincinnati chili and the food scene?
I'm going to have to disagree with Jamar Chase. I apologize. I know he's probably a legend here. I'm coming from New Mexico, where there's a different type of chili, right? There's green and red chili spelled differently. Where Skyline I've had before, certainly iconic in this city. I was downtown last night. We have a recruit on campus, and I was blown away by just how vibrant downtown is around the football and baseball stadium. So I think now I'm an old man. I'm not like Jamar Chase. I've got 3 little kids, and I've been blown away by the suburbs, the neighborhoods. It's been really good. And I heard the restaurant scene for us Italians, there's some good Italian food as well. So very excited about it.
Big fan of Soto downtown. Don't know if you went there last night or not. No, but check it out.
I did not.
Also ends in a vowel. Yeah.
I'll check it out.
Go for it. And I agree. I actually said the same thing about the ballparks downtown about 10 minutes before you came on. It's a great vibe there. Restaurants and bars in between the 2 stadiums, riverfront. You could run when I'm in town. It's a great, morning workout as well. I like the place. I know you're going to love it as well. We appreciate the time and the candor. Go build that roster. Don't let us hold you any longer.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show live weekdays from 12 to 3 p.m. Eastern on Roku Sports Channel in the U.S.